The first time she pushed my hand away, I told myself she was tired. Everyone gets tired. But by the 15th time, when her body flinched like my touch was a burden, the excuse began to rot in my chest. Not tonight, Mark. I'm exhausted, she'd whisper, turning her back to me, curling into herself. And I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling fan spinning shadows across the walls, trying to quiet the gnawing thought that exhaustion wasn't the real reason. But what broke me wasn't her distance, it was the receipts. They started showing up in the mail, tucked into the folds of our shared credit card statements. Designer shoes. Hotel dinners for two. Jewelry she never wore at home. Every item was like a slap, each one signed with my name, my money. One night, I sat at the kitchen table, receipts spread out before me like a deck of cards in a rigged game. My hands trembled as I held one up to the light, a 5-star hotel charge, dated the same weekend she had told me she was visiting her sister. I had believed her. God, I wanted to believe her. The front door opened, the jingle of her keys breaking the silence. I shoved the receipts into a drawer, heart pounding. She walked in, smelling faintly of champagne and a perfume I didn't recognize, her heels clicking against the tile. "Hey," she said casually, dropping her bag on the counter. "Why are you up so late?" I studied her face, the easy smile, the practiced calm. "Couldn't sleep." She leaned over, kissed my forehead lightly, then poured herself a glass of water. No guilt. No hesitation. And that was the worst part, how normal she made the betrayal look. For weeks, I wrestled with myself. Should I confront her? Should I wait, gather more proof? A part of me clung to denial, to the fragile hope that there was some other explanation, anything that would make her mine again. But then came the night that broke it all open. I pretended to be asleep when she slipped out of bed. Careful, quiet. I watched her silhouette move across the room, slipping into her dress, fixing her hair in the mirror. My chest ached as she picked up her phone and smiled at the screen before tiptoeing out. I followed. The city was alive with neon lights and the hum of traffic, but all I could hear was my own heartbeat as I trailed her car. She pulled into the valet of a luxury hotel, the kind we never stayed at because it was too much. She walked inside, heels clicking with purpose. I sat in my car, sweat dripping down my temples, watching through the glass doors as she greeted him. A man in a tailored suit, handsome, confident. She touched his arm, laughed in a way she hadn't laughed with me in years. They kissed. My stomach turned. The air inside the car grew thick, suffocating. The woman I had built my life with was someone else entirely, someone who lived a different life when I wasn't looking. I should have stormed in, dragged her out, demanded answers. But I couldn't move. I was frozen, glued to the seat by a mix of rage and heartbreak, shame and disbelief. Instead, I drove home alone, every streetlight stabbing at me, every mile widening the gulf between us. When she returned hours later, she crept back into bed, sliding beneath the covers as though nothing had happened. Her breathing slowed quickly, feigning sleep, but mine stayed ragged, uneven. I turned to face her shadowed profile, memorizing the lie of her peace. The next morning, I didn't speak of what I saw. Instead, I opened my laptop, logged into our bank account, and began moving money. Quietly. Strategically. She had used my resources to fund her betrayal, but she wouldn't see the end coming. Over the next week, I siphoned funds into a private account she didn't know about. I cut off the cards she used most often, citing fraud alerts when she asked why they weren't working. Each time she frowned, confused, I felt a strange flicker of power return. "Mark, can you fix this?" she asked one evening, tossing a declined card onto the table. "It's embarrassing." I shrugged. "Must be the bank. I'll call them tomorrow." She sighed, annoyed, then kissed my cheek half-heartedly before heading upstairs. That kiss burned like acid. The final straw came 2 nights later, when she once again told me she was too tired. Too tired for me. Yet her phone, carelessly left on the nightstand, buzzed with a message. "Same time tomorrow. Can't wait to see you again." I stared at it, bile rising in my throat. And then I knew, I wasn't going to confront her with shouting or accusations. I was going to let her write the ending herself. The next day, I handed her an envelope. For you, I said calmly. She opened it, eyes widening. Inside was a single piece of paper, a bank statement, showing a balance of exactly $20. Every cent she thought she could spend had been drained, moved beyond her reach. What is this? She demanded, voice sharp, brittle. It's what's left, I replied, staring straight into her eyes. That card you love so much. It's empty. Just like us. Her face paled, mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. You can't do this. I already did. The silence between us stretched, thick with everything she wasn't saying. Fear, rage, desperation. She had celebrated her freedom too early, living off my back while feeding someone else her affection. But the game was over now. That night, I packed my bags. Not because I was weak, but because I refused to let her rot me any further. As I zipped the last suitcase, she stood in the doorway, eyes red, arms crossed. You'll regret this, she whispered. I paused, meeting her gaze one last time. No, I said quietly. The only thing I regret is giving you every piece of me without realizing you were already gone. When I walked out, the night air was cold, sharp, cleansing. The weight on my chest lifted, replaced by something painful but freeing. Betrayal had hollowed me out, but in its emptiness, there was room to breathe again. Room to rebuild. Room to finally live a life that wasn't funded by lies and dressed in exhaustion. Behind me, the house stood silent, a monument to everything broken. Ahead of me, the road stretched wide and uncertain, but mine. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel tired at all.